So we're looking at how to get crispy divots in seconds. So I think it's pretty obvious that we all want to hit really crispy divots after the ball every single time. I certainly do, and I know most of the students that I see would love to do that too. So here's a couple of things that you can do that tries to get you that situation consistently. The first thing we're going to look at within crispy divots is wrist cock. So in the backswing, we need you to load these wrists pretty early. So I try and imagine this shaft here will be full of water, and I'm going to let that water completely run out by the time the club gets to hip high. So it's a very early wrist cock in the backswing. Then I'm going to try and feel that the wrists stay quite solid. I'm not going to allow them to cock too much more in the backswing. I'd rather see this be loaded early. And then ideally we store it and dump it in the right place. But really the focus for this is just about, can we make sure we're loading those wrists? So a little waggle, really trying to feel I'm loading those wrists early in the backswing. And then be pretty natural through the golf ball, and a nice little slithery divot there and great contact. So definitely felt I loaded those wrists earlier than normal, but really just encouraging it from a waggle and a little bit of checkpoint in the mirror or on the camera to make sure we get that early wrist cock to try and give us that slightly more downward angle approach and a slightly more sharp lean at contact. Let's get into point number two. Point number two is all about staying centered. So if my head moves too much and I sway with my hips or torso too much off the golf ball, getting that low point after the golf ball, about 3 to 4 inches is where we'd want it to be with a 7-iron, would be very difficult to do. Not impossible, but very difficult. So the more we feel that we can stay centered on the ball with our head, so as much as 1 inch maximum movement is what we're after. The best way to feel this is actually to close this lead eye. So if I step to the golf ball and close this lead eye, and I want to make sure I don't lose sight of that ball. And if I don't lose sight of the ball, the head will be restricted in how much it moves. I still want a good turn in my rib cage. I still want to load these wrists. But if I can hit some shots with that lead eye closed, I'll start to get that ball and turf consistently by reducing the amount of sway off the ball I will have. Nice crispy divot then again. That felt probably easier to do than the wrist cock to get the crispiness of the divot, if I'm honest. So that would be probably a great one to start with, and add the wrist cock as you feel comfortable with the head movement. The last thing we're going to talk about is hip slide. Now, if we manage to move our belt buckle more towards our lead foot, that's going to help shift our low point forward. And what a lot of golfers that struggle with getting divots after the golf ball do is fall backwards. So we want to fall forwards with the lower half to get the right contact. So yes, ideally we want to combine all these things, so wrist cock, staying centered, and then moving forward with our hips. So a great way of feeling this will be to start off with a narrow stance and step the hip out as we swing back. That's the way the hip needs to feel it moves. And then in the real swing, just trying to feel we finish with your right butt cheek past the line of the golf ball. Take a rod and put the rod or a club at the back edge of the golf ball. And when you hit a golf ball now, try and feel that we get the thigh and hip past that rod. Try not to do it again too much with the upper body. It's the lower body. It's a lower body separation. Now, when they're skinny divot, probably would like to add a little bit more divot to it, but that might be down to my arm structure, which is the only thing that can cause it then not to get that real nice deep divot. But the contact was great, the flight was great, and I definitely felt like I shifted forward. So the three things, loading those wrists, staying centered, and shift forward, will get you crispy divots after the golf ball pretty quickly.